Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Tezvavim and Aleph, the second line from the top. The Gemara previously brought Yodayim, Stam Yodayim, as one of the 18 enactments that Beis Shammai overvoted Beis Hillel. The Gemara challenged, was it indeed the Talmidim of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel that enacted Stam Yodayim, to make Stam Yodayim to be Tamei, Sheni, and Poisel Truma? After all, Shammai Hazoken and Vehillel Hazoken were the ones who were Goizer Stam Yodayim. The Gemara said no, that indeed it must be the Talmidim of Shammai and the Talmidim of Hillel. Why? Because it says that they were Nechliku. That's what our Gemara is quoting right now. Gufo, Amrav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Yudches Gozru, be Yudches Nechliku. They were Goizer and they were Nechliku. And we don't find that Shammai Hazoken and Hillel Hazoken argued on more than 3 different specific cases, but 18 not. And therefore it cannot be Shammai and Hillel themselves, but rather it must be the Talmidim of Shammai and Hillel. The Gemara asks now, Vahatanya, Hushvu. We have a brisa that says that they equated, that means that they agreed. Boi Bayoim, answers the Gemara, Nechleku, Lamachar Hushvu. On that day they were arguing, Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, but after Beis Shammai outvoted Beis Hillel agreed with Beis Shammai. The Gemara now brings back the next statement, Gufo, Omar Rav Huna, Begimul Makomois Nechleku Shammai v'Hillel. There are only 3 places that Shammai Hazoken argued with Hillel Hazoken. Shammai Oimer Mikav Chala. One of those places in the following Mishnah in Edios, it says, Shammai said that in regards to Hafrashas Chala, what is the amount that one needs to then have flour in order to then be chayiv in be mafrish chala? So Shammai says mikav chala, from 1 kav of chala. V'Hillel oimer mikabayim. Hillel says to double the amount. Shammai says a kav, which is about 2 liters. So if you fill up a 2-liter bottle of flour, that's the amount that one has to then when he's using flour, that much flour, he must then take out challah, which is one of the matnos kahuna. And that is the amount that typically the balabayis would then make for himself, which is 24 beitzim, and therefore to give a nesina, a matana, that would require 1/6 of that, which is going to be a kabetza. Sorry, 6 kavim is 1/6 of Shammai oimer mikav chalo, v'Hillel oimer mikabayim. Shammai is the opinion that if there is enough flour, that is a amount of a kav, which comes out to be about 2 liters. If you fill up a 2-liter bottle of flour, then you're going to be chayiv in challah according to Shammai. And Hillel says double that. What is the machlokes? The pasuk says, Reishis aroseichem chala tarimu truma betruma ketrumas goren kain tarimu oso. That means that it has to be a truma to the kohen, which is the shear of the truma, a minimum of 1/6. And since a kav is 6 beitzim, therefore it'll come out to be 1/6 of that would be 1 beitz, so that would be a shear of a nesina for the kohen. Whereas Hillel says that's only for the size of a balabayis, but for a baker it's double, and therefore it has to be double that amount as well, 2 beitzim. V'chachamim oimrim loy kidivrei zeh v'lo kidivrei zeh. Not like Shammai Hazokin, not like Hillel Hazokin. Ella, the amount that a person is chayiv to be mafrish challah for is a kav umechza chayiv bechallah. 1.5 kav, a person is chayiv in challah. Where do we get that measurement of a 1.5 kav? Because that pasuk that we just brought, Reishis aruseichem challah tarimu truma, that's referring to an oimer. And the size of an oimer, the Torah says, is asirus ha'efa, 1/10 of an ephah. And an ephah itself is 18. So therefore, a tenth of 18 is 1.8 kav. However, since you have to then reduce that amount to a Yerushalmi amount from a midbari, therefore it comes out you take the 1.8 or 1 4/5, and you would multiply that by 5/6, whereby you'll get the amount of 1.5 kav which you're chayiv for challah. Mishehigdilu hamidos, but when they made the midos bigger, omru chameshes revoim. In Sipur they made it even more. They had to add the 6th, which we said before, which would have been 1 4/5 at the end. And therefore, omru chameshes revoim kema chayavim bechala. 1 4/5, that's come out to be the oimer, and that is what's chayiv in chala. Rabbi Yosi oimer, hey peturin, hey va'oid chayavin. If it's 4/5 only, then its potter has to be more than that in order to be chayiv, and challah have to be left over 4/5 of flour. That's one place in Eidios that we find a machlokes between Shammai and Hillel. The Idach, another Mishnah in Eidios, this is the beginning of Maseches Eidios also, it stated the following: Hillel, oimer maloyhin, mayim she'uvim poislinis ha-mikvah. Here, we're talking about a kosher mikvah. A kosher mikvah requires 40 sa'ah, and each sa'ah is 6 kav. So, if you have rainwater of 40 sa'ah, so then that makes a kosher mikvah. Whereby, if you subsequently put in mayim she'uvim, water that was gathered in a kli, and put that into the mikvah, doesn't poisel the mikvah. But before you get to the 40 sa'ah, if you do put a certain amount of mayim she'uvim in that mikvah, it will poisel the mikvah. The question is, how much mayim she'uvim will poisel the mikvah? And that's the discussion here in this Mishnah. So again, Hillel oimer meloi hin mayim she'uvim poisel nes ha-mikvah. If you fill up a hin of mayim she'uvim, which is the largest amount of liquid measurement that we find in the Torah, that will poisel the mikvah of that amount of mayim she'uvim. What is that amount of a hin? That comes out to be 3 kavim, or we say 12 lugin, and therefore he said that's the amount will poisel. And why didn't he say that indeed it's going to be 12 lugin or 3 kavim, the lashon of the Mishnah? Why did he choose the lashon of the Torah of hin? Says the Mishnah, continue, shechayev adam loymar b'lashon rabbi, because a person is obligation to teach in the language of his Rebbe, and therefore since Shmai v'Avtalion, his Rabbeim, were gerei tzedek, they couldn't pronounce the word hin, and they said in, so therefore he said maloi hin, as not to make a mistake and say in, meaning you don't need any amount, will then poisil the mayim she'uvim at the mikvah. So he emphasized maloi hin, and therefore he said maloi hin, he pronounced the hey, and he said maloi hin together, as to then make it clear what the Rebbeim Shmai v'Avtalion meant when they said hin. Shammai oimer tisha kavin. Shammai argues on Hillel HaZoken, he says tisha kavin. Tisha kavin comes out to be 4 lug, which is times 9, which comes up to be 36 lugin, and that amount is poisel the mikvah. Where do we get 9 kavin from? Because he says that 9 kavin, since we find that a keri can then be mitaher ayidei tisha kavin, therefore that's an appropriate amount that is mitaher a person. Therefore, that also the amount will be poisel the mikvah, which is a mikvah that is mitaher. V'chachamim oimrim lo k'divrei zeh v'lo k'divrei zeh. However, the chachamim said the halacha is not like Shammai, not like Hillel. Ashebo beis gardin u'mishar ha'ashba sheb'Yushalayim, until 2 weavers came from the Shar Ashba in Yushalayim. Veheidu mishum shmai v'avtalion sheshloisha lugin mayim she'uvin poisonis hamikvah. Rather, it's 3 lugin of mayim shuvim that is poisel the mikvah, and the reason why 3 lugin is brought, because that's the minimum amount that we find by a nesachim that can be used, and therefore that is the amount that is poisel the mikvah of mayim shuvim. The kimu chachamim as divrim, and the chachamim indeed were mekayim the words of Shmai va'av talion, that 3 lugin, if it's not yet arboim so, will poisel the mikvah. The idach, and the third machlokes in regards to nida, if a woman is nida and she touches something that is tor, she is metame'it, and therefore a woman, not only when she sees the dam is she technically nida, but she's also a nida when the dam leaves the rechem. So here's the machlokes: at which point do we identify that dam was metame her as a nida? V'idach Shammai oimer kol hanoshim dayan shaitzen. Every woman, only when she sees the blood itself, are we going to say that she has the status of a nida who is tamei. V'hillel oimer mifekida lepekida v'afilu liyamim harbe. Well, Hillel says that from the time of the bedika to the time of the bedika, if she found dam, she saw dam in between those bedikos, then she becomes tamei from the first time of the first bedika and onwards, and therefore if she touched anything subsequently from that first earlier bedika, then she's going to then metame that food, for example, no matter how many days it has been from the time of that earlier bedika. Not like the words of Shammai and not like the words of Hillel. When you have a 24-hour period, it comes to minimize the checking the bedika to the bedika, meaning to say that if there was a 24-hour period, even if the bedika rishona was longer, was much earlier than that, so that will only then cause it to become tamei, have the status as a nida from the time of the 24-hour period before, and not the earlier time that Hillel was saying from that she was made a bedika. Upekida lepekida mema'ait al yad me'es le'es, and from a checking to a checking will minimize the 24-hour period, which means that if she checked in the morning 12 hours before, so if she sees dam, then she will only then become a status of a nida from the time that she checked the 12 hours before, not 24 hours before that. In other words, the lesser of the two, of 24 hours or the earlier bedika. Ask the Gemara, so therefore, those are the 3 that we find Shammai Hazakin, Hillel Hazakin arguing. Ask the Gemara, V'suleka, are there no other machlokes aside from these 3? V'ha'ika, behold, we find an additional machlokes between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel omer lismoich, in regards to a carbon chagiga on Yom Tif, for example, there needs to be a smicha on Nedavim and Nadavos, so on a chagiga, which is on Yom Tif. So Hillel says that also a smicha, when a person is bringing that carbon, he must put his hands on the carbon. V'Shammai omer shelo lismoich. Shammai says not to be somich. So we see indeed that there's a machlokes between the 2 of them, also in another place. Answers the Gemara, Ki ka'amar Rav Huna, when Rav Huna said that there are only 3 machlokes between Shammai and Hillel, he was talking about Heicha deleke plukto de bravasa behadaihu. He was talking about when there's no other argument between earlier sages in this matter. And over here, in regards to smicha, then the previous zugos also argued on this matter of smicha, on smicha, for example, on chagiga on Yom Tif, and therefore this was excluded in Rav Huna's statement. V'ha'ika asked the Gemara further, but there was an additional machlokes between Shammai and Hillel. Haboitze lagat, if a person is harvesting the grapes for the wine press, so there's a question about what about the juice that comes out of the grapes? Are they machshir the grapes to then be susceptible from Mekabel Tuma or not? So Shammai oimer huchshar, that Shammai says that indeed those grapes that have any juice that came out of it will then indeed cause those grapes to be susceptible to Tuma. The Hillel oimer loy huchshar. Hillel says not. Even though Hillel is is understood because, after all, a person doesn't want the juice, and therefore the general principle is, unless the juice is wanted by the owner, it doesn't cause, in this case, grapes or other foods, to other produce or other fruits, to become susceptible to tuma. So why over here the Shammai say that indeed it's chuchshar? Because he's of the opinion that since it's for the gat, and very often the gat is put in a place where is going to have the juice being kept in its kli, therefore it's considered to be wanted by the owner, and that's why it's considered to be chuchshar letuma. And even if it's not going to be in such a place, such a kli, but Shammai says in general, we'll always say that if it's boiser legat, it's going to then have the din of chuchshar letuma. So the Gemara says, bar minei, except from this case. Why? Because in this case, ultimately, Hillel heard the opinion of Shammai, and he was quiet. That means that he accepted the opinion of of Shammai rather, and didn't say anything. Therefore, it wasn't considered to be an ultimate machlokes.